Alright everyone, so this time we're gonna see how to navigate in the HTML tree or markup using XPath. And as I told you before, this is something CSS selectors lacks of. So let's take as an example this p element with ID set to unique, which is inside a div element with a class attribute set to outro. Now from this div perspective, this p element is considered as a child to it because it's listed within it, right? In contrast, from this p perspective, this div is considered as a parent, right? Now, in the previous video, when, for example, we listed all the elements that are inside this div element, we did /div square brackets with a class attribute set to intro and then /p. So we were looking for the p's that are children of this div with a class attribute set to intro. However, sometimes we do also want to search for a parent, for example. So let's say for some circumstances, we want to look for the parent of this p element with ID set to unique. So let's select this particular p element. We can do /p square brackets ID equals to unique. Now to get the parent, we do /parent : div. Parent in XPath is called an axis, and an axis is mostly used to navigate in the HTML tree or markup. That's what we use it for. Now, of course, sometimes we don't know what the parent element is, means it's not always a div, it can be a span, an A element, it can be anything else, of course. So rather than being specific about what parent we are looking for, we can replace this div by a function called node, and we still get the same output. So node will basically figure out what's the parent element automatically. Now, in alternative to the parent axis, we do also have another one called ancestor. So let's replace parent by ancestor. Now look at the output. We did get the div element itself. We also get the body element and the HTML element. So basically the ancestor axis will return the parent and the parent of the parent. In other words, grandparent, okay? Notice that it didn't return this p element, it's not listed here. So if we do want to return the p element too, we use ancestor or -self. And this time we get 4 elements, including the p element itself. Now another axis we use it to navigate up in the HTML tree is called preceding. Let's test it out. So let's replace ancestor or self by preceding. So we got the head, title, and even the text element, some empty elements because we do indeed have line breaks here. So generally speaking, the preceding axis will return all the elements that do precede this p element, excluding the ancestors, okay? So if you replace, for example, this node function by h1, we get the h1 element that does precede this p, which is this one. However, if we replace this h1, for example, by body, we get nothing. Simply because, as I said, preceding do only return all the elements that do precede an element to specify, but not including the ancestors, okay? Now, one last axis I want to show you is called preceding sibling. So let's take as an example this p element with ID set to outside, and let's say we want to get its brother, which is this p element. Now, two elements are considered as siblings if they do share the same parent, like in this case, we have the parent element, which is this div. So I'm gonna delete this XPath expression, and let's select the p with ID set to outside. I misspelled outside, so. And to get its brother, we do /preceding -sibling : node. And we do indeed get this p element, which is just above it. So this was how to navigate up in XPath. And as a summary, we learned about 4 axes. The parent axis, which will get us the parent of a specific element. We learned about the ancestor axis, which will return the parent and the grandparent of a specific element. We learned about the preceding axis, which will get us all the elements that are listed before a specific element, but not including the ancestors. And lastly, we learned about preceding -sibling axis, which, as I told you, will get us the element brothers. Now, in the next video, we will do the inverse, means we will use XPath to navigate down in the HTML tree.